Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Father Nathan. My name is Father Bill Bruning. I am the administrator of Queen of the Holy Rosary Church in Overland Park here in Kansas of our Archdiocese. And I have the privilege and honor of being asked by Monsignor Tank to lead us in 3 days of reflection on God's mercy tonight at 7, tomorrow at 7, and on Tuesday at 7. And so I hope you all come. You know, the gospel today talks about, it's almost like a headline from the newspapers. Terrible things happening. A Tower of Siloam falling, killing 18 people in Jerusalem. Pilate going up to Galilee and taking some Jewish people and literally slaughtering them and mixing the blood in the pagan sacrifices. And they want to find clarity. Have you ever wondered in your life when things are really suffering, why? We talk about God's mercy, but it seems like in those darkest, lowest moments, sometimes we can feel like we're abandoned. Where are you in these moments, God? And we look for clarity. There was a priest, his name was Father Michael from the United States. He's 6'3", and back in the early 80s, he was going through a vocational crisis. He was about to leave the priesthood. It startled him because he didn't want to, he lost the zeal and the love for his priesthood. Doing funerals and being involved in tragedies all the time can really get a person down over time if we don't rely upon God's grace enough. And so he sensed that he was in real spiritual danger, so he asked his bishop for a sabbatical. And he thought, there's one place I can go that can get the zeal of my vocation back. So he went to Calcutta in India to spend 6 months with Mother Teresa. His very first day in Calcutta, in the Kali House for the Dying. There's rolling blackouts every day in India, even to this day. And so the power was out. He comes to this very dark place for the House of the Dying, and literally 6'3", Father Michael literally runs into Mother Teresa, 4'10". She was 4'10" at her tallest. When she died, she was about 4'6" from all her arthritis. So this little saint, he literally almost knocks her over, is extremely mortified, and says, oh my gosh, Mother Teresa, it's an honor to meet you. I'm so sorry. My name is Father Michael. I'm the priest from the United States, and I'm here for my sabbatical to give the sacraments to the sisters. And she says, yes, Father, we've been waiting for you. Welcome. Then he said, Sister, would you do me a favor? Well, what is it? Will you pray for me? Now, if you ask Mother Teresa to pray for you, she would never just say, sure. She'd say, what specifically? So she asked Father Michael, what specifically do you want me to pray for? And he said, Mother Teresa, would you please pray that I have clarity in my vocation? She paused. And then she looked at him and said, Father, I will not pray for you. Now, could you imagine this living saint saying, I will not pray for you? He was extremely disturbed by this and confused. And he said, Mother, I'm confused. You will not pray for me? The whole reason I came here to Calcutta was so I could find clarity in my vocation. And she said, Father, I will pray for you, but I cannot pray for that. I will not pray that you have clarity. He said, but Mother, in 1946, on the train to Darjeeling, when you were on that train and you had your vision of Jesus Christ, and Christ from the cross spoke to you, and he said those two words, I thirst. And you asked Jesus, what are you thirsting for? And Jesus told you, I'm thirsting for the love of the poor because they're suffering so much they don't love me. Will you love them so they'll love me? Mother, you had those two words, I thirst, that clarity of that vision, and you have spent your entire life based upon that. I just want at least a little of that in my vocation. And she looked at him and she said, Father Michael, I have never had a single day of clarity in my life. Father, in the streets of Calcutta, when there's a man who has gangrene in his sore, and I'm cleaning out his leprous sores, and there's maggots and stench and such suffering, and people left this man in the gutters to die like he's garbage, it is not clear why there's such suffering. And Father Michael, I've held babies in my hands, have been so emaciated and starving to death that any nutrition would not help them. They're too far gone. And all I can do is look into their sunken eyes and love them from this world into the next. Father, it is not clear why they suffer so much. And here at the House of Dying, at Kali House, you'll be with us and you'll see great suffering. And it will never be clear why there's this sort of suffering. So, Father, I will not pray you have clarity. But what I will do is pray this, is that Jesus Christ, who died on the cross, who cried out from the cross, I thirst, whose heart was pierced and water and blood flowed from that cross, and our Father lifted him up. And he prayed for us a merciful prayer. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I will pray that you will have the mercy of Jesus Christ in your heart and hope, because it is my hope that if God could take the crucifixion, the worst crime against humanity, nailing God to a tree, and turn that greatest crime and greatest suffering into the greatest gift, the resurrection, that God can take all these sufferings, even bring good out of this in this world, and fix what gets broken in this world, and mend it in this world and the next. So, Father, I will not pray that you have clarity. I will pray that you have hope and trust in the mercy of Jesus Christ. And that's what this retreat's about, the hope and the mercy of Jesus in your greatest suffering. We just read a newspaper page from the Galilean Times from the first century. It looks just like a newspaper, today's gospel. Tower falls down, 18 people killed. People are tortured in Galilee. Not much unlike today's papers. How many of you remember 10 years ago the Chilean miners that were trapped under the earth? Do you remember that? There were 33 miners. There's a movie that came out recently called 33. And the 33 miners were trapped under the earth for 69 days. Their leader was a guy named Mario Gomez. Mario Gomez became the spiritual leader for those men under the ground. Almost all of them were Catholic. All of them had very difficult lives, and Mario was the oldest, about 63 years old. And when they drilled that hole almost a half mile into the earth, they discovered that they were alive. They began to send food and water to keep them alive to bore that bigger hole that took 69 days to dig. And they began to ask for religious items. Please send pictures of the Blessed Mother. Please send pictures of Jesus. Please send us crucifixes. The Cardinal Archbishop of Santiago, Cardinal Francisco Ossa, shows up there, and he had been to Rome, and he brings back 33 rosaries blessed by Pope Benedict. They shoved him down that little shaft, and they prayed the rosary. They prayed to Our Lady, and they prayed and prayed. And this Mario kept their spirits alive. As they began to be pulled out of the earth, this man had had a spiritual awakening in the tomb of the earth. And it's almost like the resurrection coming. And they're being pulled out of the earth one by one. Mario's wife was there. But to his horror, there was an ex-girlfriend that he had had on the side. He had had a secret lover. And it was a scandal. The media picked up on it and said, "Oh, look at all you Catholics, a bunch of hypocrites." Let me remind you, if you ever have a friend that says, "You guys are just a bunch of hypocrites," just tell them there's room for one more. We'll see you next Sunday. Because the Holy Father has told us this, that the church is not some wax museum of saints. We are a field hospital for wounded sinners. They asked Cardinal Francisco Ossa what he thought about Mario and the sinful life that he had led. And the Cardinal Archbishop, seeing the motivation of the media, but also with his humility and his beautiful heart of love and mercy, he simply said these words: "This is all I have to say about that. Except for the Blessed Virgin Mary, except for the Blessed Virgin Mary, every saint has had a past, and every sinner has a future with Jesus. Every saint has had a past, but every sinner has a future with Christ." I've had a past myself. 3 years ago, I was removed from Prince of Peace and I was sent to guest house. It's a recovery house for priests and religious who struggled with alcoholism and addiction. It was the most dark time of my life, the most humiliating time. But it was a time period where God was doing great things of mercy in my life. And I remember thinking, what are you going to do with my life, Jesus? And Jesus was in charge. He took it a day at a time. And there was a priest that came to visit me who told me, do not give up on the mercy of Jesus. Do not give up on him. He is healing. He is love. And then come back home to us. That priest was Monsignor Tom Tank. He came up to visit me in my darkest days. He said, don't give up on the mercy of Christ. Bill, come home to us. Just get better. And it was this kind of mercy that was poured out by Our Lady, the Blessed Mother. She saved my life and my soul, and our divine mercy image we have. And Monsignor Tank, who was an infleshing of that mercy in my life, and he said, come do the mission of mercy for us. There's this Father Bob Conroy who worked with Mother Teresa for many years. And Father Bob is from Topeka, Kansas. In fact, he still works for the order. He is one of 4 priests, the first 4 priests ever ordained for Mother. And he said, here's something to think about, he told me, about Jesus and his love for each of us. I want you to close your eyes real briefly. Some of you are looking. Close your eyes. And think of the very first time. Think of the first time in your life someone ever said, I like you. You're my best friend. Maybe you're in kindergarten or first grade and you met your first bestest friend. Do you remember that person, that child who said, you're my best friend? How did you feel? Now remember the very first time someone said to you, think of the very first time, if you can remember, where someone said, I love you so much. You are so special to me. I love you so much. Maybe it was your mother, a father, a grandparent, maybe an older brother or sister that was so excited you were born. I love you so much. How do you feel right now? Do you remember the first time somebody ever said to you, I think I'm in love with you. I think I'm in love with you. That wasn't a family member. How did you feel? Scared? Vulnerable? You kids, hold on. That's going to happen to you someday. How did that feel? And do you remember the very first time, especially I hope you married couples remember this, the first time someone ever said, I am madly in love with you. I want to spend a life with you. I love you so much. How do you feel? How do you feel? Now, have you ever heard these words? I thirst for you. I thirst for you. I thirst for you. Jesus upon the cross says, I thirst for you. How do you feel? Nobody has ever said those words to you other than Jesus. He loves you. And his love is so much greater than your darkness. That's what mercy is. Mercy will never rest on the deserved. Because if it's resting on the deserved, it's justice, not mercy. Mercy is always undeserved. So come tonight at 7, tomorrow at 7, and Tuesday at 7. And let Jesus thirst for you, and you thirst for him. God bless you all. We'll see you tonight. Thank you, Father.
Thank you very much, Father Bill Bruning, and so excited for these next 3 days. So we certainly hope you can come and be with us these next 3 nights. So.